Let me get out and then go back in.
What? Wait a minute. Stop. Authenticate.
I'm trying. I'll try and log out and log back in.
All right, I did. And what? Ooh, I did.
Okay, are we
Well,
ready?
good. Have a meeting by yourself
Okay.
then. Hold on.
Okay, just a disclaimer, we are piloting a new voting method tonight. We'll be voting online, and we'll also be saying our votes out loud. So if everyone looks like they're a little tech frazzled, it's not you guys, it's our new online voting. So hopefully it will go off without a hitch. Okay, are we ready? Okay, so I would like to call to order the regular governing board meeting. The time is now 7:29. Let the record show that 4 members are present in person: Mrs. Ordway, Mrs. Fisher, Ms. Tweedy, and myself, Ms. Frank, and Mrs. O'Brien is attending telephonically. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I didn't see a vote come up on that. Okay, okay. So we should see that pop up on our iPads. I don't.
It's on.
Do we want to go ahead and move forward and then, and we'll keep rolling and eventually we'll get this worked out. All right, so,
We did. We all voted aye. It just didn't come up for an electronic vote.
right, it didn't come up for electronic. I don't see the pledge on here, but I think we probably should stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will start with governing board reports. We'll start with Mrs. O'Brien, because if I don't start with you, Mrs. O'Brien, I'll forget you're on the phone. Thank you. Mrs. Ordway.
No report. I know it pains you.
You were tempted. Thank
I
you.
was. I look in the audience and I see the kids. Oh, I'm sorry. That's like a report.
That's like a report.
It's like a report, but I don't have one.
Mrs. Fisher.
I would like to quickly honor this student, and so I will say no report as well.
Ms. Tweedy.
Where do I start now? No report.
Well, I had a lengthy report, but now I'll have to go with no report. All right. So that brings us to superintendent's report.
And I have a long report. Mine's good. We have a unique opportunity tonight during my superintendent's report. We rarely have awards in July, but a well-deserving honoree will be off to college by our next board meeting. So we want to honor him tonight. So the director of our communications department, Monica Allred, will come to the podium and fill us in for the special recognition.
Good evening, President Frank, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Finch. Please come forward at this time in the front of the dais so we can honor our special guest. In 2011, longtime education leader and former DVUSD superintendent, Dr. Virginia McCallier, created the Virginia and David McCallier Scholarship for Educational Excellence as a tribute to her late husband, David. Since its inception, this scholarship has provided more than $12,000 to assist Deer Valley students in fulfilling their dreams of pursuing a career in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Although Dr. McCallier passed away last year, her legacy lives on through her many educational contributions, including this scholarship. Unfortunately, we learned just late this afternoon that the McCallier family couldn't be here tonight. They did work closely with the Deer Valley Education Foundation to coordinate the scholarship, and Executive Director Marie Brennan is here tonight, and she'll come forward to present the check and congratulate our honoree. The 2017-2018 Virginia and David McKellier Scholarship for Educational Excellence Scholarship recipient is Benjamin Carls, a recent graduate of Barry Goldwater High School. He will be attending the University of Arizona this fall. In his essay, Benjamin wrote, "As long as advancements in science and math have started, the key to innovation has been creative thinking. If the early mathematicians and scientists had not thought outside their known nature, new concepts and advancements would never have been made." With his degree in environmental sciences with an emphasis in chemistry and physics, Benjamin hopes to help the world not only become a more eco-friendly way of chemicals and resources that we use, but also create regulations to prevent further damage to people and the environment. Congratulations to this year's recipient of the Virginia and David McKellier Scholarship for Educational Excellence, Benjamin Carls.
Thank you, everyone. I wanted to thank the McKellier family once more for this opportunity to not only enhance my own learning, but for all the other students that they help. And this scholarship is really helpful to me, but also helps the other students at this. I'd like to also thank the board members for allowing this opportunity to happen, as it's an honor to be here and it's an honor to receive such a scholarship. I would also like to thank my family and friends who are here with me, who support me with everything I do. They're always there for when I need them. I also like to thank the teachers that are here. Always been there for me at school when I needed something. So I'd just like to thank everyone for making such a possibility happen with my career and through my life, and I thank you.
Family and friends and supporters and teachers. Congratulations, Benjamin.
Any other good news in your report?
All done.
All done. Okay. All right, so that moves us along to public comments. So we have two speakers, and I hope I get your names right. Is it Thielen Childs and David Lee? If you would please make your way to the podium. Ms. Tweedy will read the admonishment.
I'm just going to start now because it's long. The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be placed on a future agenda. Thanks.
Okay, so if you would step to the podium and please state your name for the record and speak clearly into the microphone.
My name is David Lee. I have a grandson going to Deer Valley High School, and my question is concerning if the Booster Club is buying uniforms and helmets, but that in previous districts that I've worked for, once those items are purchased, they turn into school property because it has to go on the books. Why is the Booster Club paying for it? And my second question is, why does the Booster Club pay for getting the loudspeaker system fixed, and shouldn't that come out of the district's money to get the loudspeakers fixed in the football stadium? I just believe there's too much is being asked on parents to support the Booster Club for things that I believe the district should be paying for in the first place.
Dr. Finch, if you would like to respond.
I will. I have your contact here, I believe. So I'll be giving you a buzz and following up with you on those answer to those two questions.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next speaker, please state your name for the record.
Thielen Childs. So my son will be going to Deer Valley High School, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Booster Club, also wondering about the football field, and is there any money in the budget in repairing the football field for everyone that uses it, not only the football players?
That sounds like me too. I also contact you as well. I have your contact information here, so I'll be giving you a buzz and be asking you about specifics so that I can get a better feel on what you're after. But that is what my first thought is, that well, I'll contact you because it'll take too long. Put it that way. I'll call you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Finch, if you could let the board know, because I have similar questions and would like to send us on maybe a Thursday update what's happening. I know we're hiring an athletic director.
Yep.
Someone to actually take a hand in this area. But in the meantime, I personally get a lot of questions about what Deer Valley is doing or has
Sure.
done. I'd like to know the answers as well.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll include everybody in a Thursday update.
Okay, great.
Just to let you know, too, Miss O'Brien's having difficulty on the other end, so make sure you speak loud into your microphone. She's picking up only parts of us, so
So
yell
chew
into
on
your-
it.
chew on your mics.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we'll look forward to hearing that information in an update. So that moves us on to item 4A, the community education, old business, community education department relocation. So Dr. Galligan, and Mrs. Irvin. So we do need a motion.
I move that the governing board approve the administration's recommendation to relocate the community education division to a campus-based location at Copper Creek Elementary School.
Second.
Okay. Dr. Galligan.
President Frank, members of the board, Dr. Finch, and guests. The topic before you is the relocation of community education office staff from the district office to a different location. On April 17th, we met in a study session about this agenda item and shared with you the reasoning and benefits to our relocation of the community education business side to a campus-based location. This evening, we bring this item back to you for action. As mentioned during the study session on April 17th, these were the 5 areas we discussed. The size of the community education business program has outgrown the district office space. The relocation is advantageous for the business side of a community education at a campus where community education already has programs and has the availability and access for those programs. Also, the ability to add, this would be new, and it would be a kind of a gem for us, would be adding a 2.5-year classroom. Although those are expensive, we believe the ability to implement one of those classrooms then feeds into our 3-year-old classrooms across 8 campuses. We have a target audience at the campus that we are recommending, which is Copper Creek, because the Deer Valley Family Resource Center is already located there in a portable, and that is a direct marketing source for us and for the programs that are held there. In addition, part of the benefit for Copper Creek is that we have CTE programs at O'Connor High School, Mountain Ridge High School, and those would have the possibility for student interns to be able to also support the children in that 2.5 classroom. And then, of course, the economic would be the stable income stream by building in a 2.5-year-old classroom that would then grow into our already 3-year programs. That's a benefit for us. And although we have discussed in April 17th both Greenbrier and Copper Creek as possible locations, we feel that because of the Deer Valley Family Resource Center being at Copper Creek, it would be just a good marriage of both of those buildings. Both Copper Creek and Greenbrier principals do support a move for the business side of community education to be on their campus. As I mentioned, our first choice would be to utilize Copper Creek for a few reasons. We know that the Deer Valley Family Resource Center portable was remodeled using First Thing First funds, and it's a permanent home at Copper Creek, meaning we hope that we will never be bumped off of another campus for that particular program that supports birth through 5 years. We know that relocating the community ed business office to Copper Creek with the Family Resource Center provides that added cohesiveness of services to our stakeholders. And we know that, as I mentioned, that close proximity to Mountain Ridge and O'Connor, 2 of our 3 CTE early childhood programs are in those campuses, and children, young adults could intern within the programs that we have. When we look at pros and cons to both, again, our recommendation is Copper Creek for those reasons that I just mentioned. I believe a question was asked about the demographer's report, because one of the cons in Greenbrier is that if Greenbrier were to grow in enrollment, the possibility for the business side of community education to be bumped from that campus could occur, and that has happened in both our developmental preschool programs and our community ed preschool programs across different campuses. The demographer's report that we received this past year shows that between 2017 and 2027, there could be a 2 to 7% increase in enrollment in Greenbrier. Where that does not sound like a large number, it still is a growth of students who would be attending that campus. As I mentioned, historically, trying to find space for our early childhood programs that have children, much less a business side, has always posed challenges for us. Specifically, we would really like to have something in the Norterra Canyon, Sonoran Foothills corridor, because that's where we have quite a few families that want to participate. There just is not space available in those areas, and that's why we identified both Copper Creek and Greenbrier as a possible solution to that challenge. And as we shared with you previously, this is the infographic. You have a copy of that physically in front of you, and that just gives the numbers that are involved with community education. In addition, during the study session, I think a question was asked about the Deer Valley Family Resource Center and the numbers of families from different areas in our district who had registered to be part of the Family Resource Center. And we were able to identify that based on zip code. And if you would like, I'd be happy to share that information with you. Okay. So in the zip code of 85085 that spans Sonoran Foothills area to south of the Carefree Highway, we have 55 families that have registered in our Family Resource Center at Copper Creek. In the 85086, which is the Anthem and New River area, we have 48 families who have registered in our Family Resource Center. In the 85383 and 382, which is the West Wing to Copper Creek area, we have 48 families who are registered with the Family Resource Center. Then in the 85022, 23, 24, and 27, those are our southern schools, we have 32 families who have registered with the Family Resource Center. And then outside of our district, from El Mirage, Youngtown, and Surprise, we have 18 families who have registered in our Family Resource Center. I missed one. 85310, which is south of Happy Valley, that encompasses the Desert Sage and Copper Creek areas. There are 35 families. My apologies on that.
Do you have additional information in the presentation, or are we ready to open it up to questions?
We are ready to open it up for any
Because that's a short
questions.
presentation for you, Dr. Galligan.
I know it is. I am trying to do due diligence on this July board meeting.
That was an awkward silence there after you finished. So open this up for questions or comments from fellow board members. Okay, Ms. Tweedy.
Are we still trying to vote on our iPads?
Oh, that's not a question for you, Dr. Galligan.
Okay, that's fine. I just wasn't sure if I was having technical problems.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions, comments about the presentation? Mrs. O'Brien?
The original motion, did it have one of the school names in it?
It has Copper Creek's name.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good otherwise.
Okay. I did have one additional question. I just want to clarify. I think I understand. I think I know the answer you're going to give me. So we're moving the portable from the district office parking lot. So we're moving the business office. I know that Copper Creek is located near schools that are at capacity or potential to be over capacity. So by moving community ed business office, that's not going to take up any classroom space in Copper Creek. That would make it difficult for us to then, if there were to be a boundary change, if we needed that school to move kids to. This move would not impact it in any way.
President Frank, no, it would not.
Okay.
In addition, we would have the availability to offer an open 2.5-year-old program within the portable that we would be moving.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure there's not a future impact down the road that might be problematic. Are we ready to vote? Ms. Fisher?
I just have my usual comment. I want to tell community education how much you rock and what great impact you have on children. And Barry still sends his love every time he knows you're going to be here. So.
Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, I'm not trying to rush anyone, but since I'm not seeing any, I will call for the vote. I'm not seeing it pop up on my iPad.
And I am not either. Oh, wait.
It just came
It
out.
did.
Oh, wait, there it
Here,
is.
It's
we're
there.
live.
It's
Okay.
magic.
This is
Okay, it's done.
exciting.
Technology.
And I've heard to just build the suspense, we have the option to change our vote if we want to. All right, so all those,
So Brian get to vote?
okay.
Yep. She clicked the box.
So verbally,
Yeah,
it's.
we still need to do it.
Oh,
loud,
I
though.
just voted.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Are we still voting verbally as well?
I think we
Yes,
should.
we probably should.
We all got excited with the technology. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0.
All right. Thanks, Miss O'Brien.
And thank you. Okay, so that brings us to old business item 4B, Computer Science Curriculum Framework. Can I get a motion?
I move that the governing board approve the administration's recommendation to utilize code.org as the DVUSD pre-K-12 computer science curriculum framework.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Galligan.
President Frank, members of the board, Dr. Finch, there are no changes to the presentation that we gave you in June. So we stand happy and ready for an action from the board for code.org to be our pre-K-12 curricular framework.
It's difficult to criticize no cost. It's very difficult. Any questions, comments from board members? Mrs. O'Brien?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay, so hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Our vote didn't
Aye.
pop up. Aye.
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 And
Any-
aye.
I think
And
yay.
Oh,
No.
now I have it.
I don't
Okay.
have it yet.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Y'all are going to get to someday enjoying this
Well,
fun because
it
it'll be on
probably
a
goes
camera
around
and
the
you'll
world.
see it.
Yeah,
It's
probably
really
goes
fun.
to Sri Lanka
Okay,
and
so
back.
I heard 5 ayes and 0 nays. All right. Okay, so the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Galligan. It looks like our next victim is Mr. Miglerino. On item 4C, approve 2018-19 extracurricular tax credit and fee authorization. Can I get a motion?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the 2018-19 extracurricular tax credit and fee authorization.
Second.
Mr. Miglerino.
President Frank, members of the board, Dr. Finch, as presented back in June, the only change to the fee schedule for 2018-19 is an increase to the Deer Valley Online Learning Program from $150 per class to $175. And subsequent from the June meeting, we provided some additional information about what are comparable costs for online programs for our neighboring districts. But that is the only change that we're recommending. Be happy to answer any questions about the fee schedule.
Mrs. Fisher.
Mr. Miglerino, I've been getting a lot of questions from the community that they are not allowed to use their things that they're paying for students into extracurricular tax. Now, I understand that according the tax credit, yeah. Well, that's extracurricular tax. I understand that this item we're approving fees, but not everything requires an approved fee anymore since the change in law, I want to say last year, maybe year before. Do we need to do anything in this to make it to where our public can? Because from what I understand, there isn't a reason they couldn't. There has been several young sports, athletes that have had community members and family wanting to pay for things for them, but they want to use their extracurricular tax, and they're being told that they are not able to do that. That's a concern to me because that's exactly what it's for. So Is there something we need to do on this item, or is that something that we need you to address for us in maybe a Thursday update in a future conversation?
President Frank, Ms. Fisher, I don't think it has anything to do with the fee schedule that's before you and up for consideration this evening. I think it has to do more with the expectation of the programs and how those expectations are funded, because there are multiple means for those people that are involved in those programs to participate financially, and one of those includes the opportunity for tax credits to be utilized to be able to fund those programs. So it's not specific to the fee schedule that's before you, but it does address how we fund extracurricular activities in our district in a general sense.
Okay, so there's nothing here that we need to do. I would like to request that we have a future discussion on tax credit so that we understand what the concerns are, and so that we have a way for our parents and their family members to utilize it better and increase our tax credit collection. Thank you.
So Mrs. Fisher will add that item to a future agenda. Ms. Tweedy. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Well, I was going to say we do have a lot of things that we're adding to meetings, and with school starting in August, perhaps in addition to scheduling that at some point, we could have information in a Thursday update that's going to be relayed to staff when staff comes back. So perhaps the information can then be put on our district website and the school website, so people can understand that tax credit money is used for extracurricular and co-curricular activities.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion, Mrs. Ordway. Ms. Tweedy.
When I was looking at the fee increase proposed for Deer Valley Online Learning, I guess a question that came to mind, and I'm sorry, it came to mind on the way here, or I would have asked in advance. I do realize that some districts have higher fees, like PV, Scottsdale, Chandler, Vale, Mesa. But Dysart, Glendale, and Peoria are equal at $150. And one thing I do know, or at least I did know about Peoria, unless they've changed it very recently, they used to accept credits from Primavera Online Learning, which is free because it's a charter. And the only other place that I know of, unless this has changed for Deer Valley, we did Blueprint, but they also charge $150. So I'm curious if we know if any of these other schools also accept online credits from schools that don't charge, because we would be forcing our parents to pay this fee, I think, unless I'm...
President Frank, Ms. Tweedy, we do accept credits from online schools, whether they are fee-based or non-fee-based. However, per the statute, we accept them as elective credit, and then students will take our assessment, and based on their score on that assessment, a determination is made if that then becomes core credit or if it remains elective credit. And that is as it's written in the statute. So we do accept credits from online learning organizations.
So students can take their geometry and algebra and all that at Primavera?
President Frank, Ms. Tweedy, we do have a process. We ask that our students and parents work with our counselors about the courses that they need and the viability of taking them in Deer Valley, brick and mortar, our online program, or another outside organization like an online learning program. That's one of the things that we ask that they do. The other thing that we have in place is that there is a limit to the number of credits a student can bring into Deer Valley to our diploma over their 4-year period, and that's all specified in the academic planning guide. So we do accept credits first as elective, and then if a student is able to show their knowledge based on the content that we believe they should have to receive a Deer Valley diploma, then they get core credit for that.
So, and that's not different if they take Blueprint. They have the same process if they come from Blueprint or Primavera and they took a geometry class.
If a student,
Because
Go ahead.
I at least believe, unless it's changed, when my child was going to take math, and it wasn't the recent, so it could have changed, they were told they had to take Blueprint, not Primavera. And my nephew, by contrast, in Peoria, took Primavera and got the credit, no problem.
President Frank, Ms. Tweedy, the statute did change a few years ago, and so we made changes based on the statute, which indicates that we have to take the credit from an online organization. However, we determine what that credit will be. And so in Deer Valley, we've made the decision, as the statute indicates, that we will accept it as elective credit until the student is able to take that final to show their knowledge. And then we make the decision if it will be core content or elective credit. But we made that change just a few years ago based on changes in the statute.
So the process isn't different than if they went to Blueprint, they would also get an elective. They would also get an elective credit too. It'd be the same thing. Is that the case?
President Frank, Ms. Tweedy, I would need to go back and look at our AMG and our processes. I can put that in an update for you.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
I think Ms. Twee's making a great point here, though, that I think for me, the critical part, and I've been pressing it with our team, is that if you want to use Primavera, you want to use Blueprint, that's okay. But if I'm going to give you a Deer Valley sticker on your diploma, it better be quality. And so what's happening over time, if those programs aren't producing quality, we won't be honoring that. So eventually what will happen is if those programs don't put out quality, we'll get out of business because we won't honor it. So if you go to Primavera and take your geometry and can't pass our final, we're not going to give you a core credit. So the parents are going to quickly, and the students are going to quickly figure out, I'm doing all this work for nothing. So all I get is an elective class. The same thing happens when you go to college and you transfer colleges. They don't give you any credits on your course unless you can pass exams. So I think that philosophy is where I'm headed with as well, that we want quality that we can put our stamp on. So yes, you can try Blueprint, but hopefully our counselors will direct them to our programs, which we know are quality. So that's the theory behind it. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it would be consistent. I mean, if you take Deer Valley Online, you have to get a 60 to get credit. So is that what they would have to get with the Primavera or an online charter? I keep saying Primavera. I would hope it's the same regardless.
President Frank, Ms. Tweedy, I'll have that in the update for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. O'Brien, did you have questions or comments on this item?
I do not.
Okay. I do have some, I personally have a concern with raising fees on our parents. And it is my understanding from the previous presentation on the budget that this increase was not included in the budget. So personally, I think we need to be extremely mindful of what we're charging our parents. So those are my thoughts. If there's nothing further from any board member, then I will call for the vote. Ms. Tweedy, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to explain my vote. I wouldn't be comfortable raising the Deer Valley Online fee without knowing the process for them to be able to take it another way online. If it was 60% on a final, we're requiring for our students, and then that, and if it doesn't pass and somebody wanted to bring it back, and I'm sorry, I just thought of this tonight, but I wasn't comfortable with the fee at all, so initially I just didn't want to vote for it. But then I thought, well, I would be more inclined to vote for it. And hearing there's a path makes me feel better, but I would still expect that they have to I would expect that we would hold the same standards for our own online education and the outcomes that the students demonstrate as we would for other schools. So that would just be my request.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they take the same final or not, but I know the product that we control, but I don't know the product that's outside of us. So that's a good question. Okay. And hopefully Dr. Galligan can figure that out for us.
Can I ask Dr. Galligan one final question? Because I thought we had gone over this a lot. And their initial recovery is no charge, correct? This is the fee. Okay.
This is a different scenario. Yep.
President Frank, Ms. Fisher, these are our full online classes. There has always been a fee for our online classes over the 6 courses that a student might have during the school day, school year.
Correct. So let's say a student does need a geometry recovery course. They can take it brick and mortar for free. This is a convenience for them to be able to take it online.
President Frank, Ms. Fisher, that is absolutely correct.
Okay, so they still have a free option.
If they can't get there, it's not convenient.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is a convenience, not getting there. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, because we're offering brick and mortar at 2 schools, which is fair to the kids that attend those schools and already are located there. It's not particularly fair to the people that live in my community that would have to drive, and if their kids don't drive, they can't access the free program.
Well, I just wanted to...
Go ahead.
The credit recovery can be taken for free online as well as blended as well as brick and mortar. Somewhere in there, no.
President Frank, Ms. Ordway, if the course is over and above the 6 courses that they would have in a typical day, they're going to there is a fee for that.
Right.
But if it's within those 6 courses, no, there is not a fee.
Okay,
However, I do need to preface that with our summer program, which is for Get Ahead, as well as students who want credit recovery. Our summer program is completely fee-based.
Does that answer everyone's
I think it does.
questions?
Because essentially, if it is free, if they, even online, if they take it, they say take one less course. Mm-hmm. At whatever school they're at, and then they take the recovery course online. Well, they may just have to take a full senior year or something. Okay, I understand now, I think.
Okay, so I did call for the vote. It did pop up on everyone's iPads. I already voted, so I'll just go ahead and call verbally. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. This motion carries 3-2. Thank you, Dr. Galligan. All right, so that brings us to the consent agenda, and I need a motion.
I move we adopt the consent agenda, items A through J.
Second.
All those in favor?
Are we eyeing before the pop-up?
Well, so we'll have to discuss the protocol. Do we want to vote before we vote online, or it's not on mine? But there it is. I'm always last for some reason. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm abstaining.
Are there any nays?
Nay.
Okay, so we have 3 ayes, 1 nay, 1 abstention, and the motion carries. All right, action item 6A, approve addenda pre-approvals, and I will need a motion. Um, 6A, addenda pre-approvals.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approve the addenda as presented.
Second.
Is there discussion on this item?
Nope.
Mrs. O'Brien, discussion from you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I will call for the vote. All those in favor, it's popped up on your iPad. Please vote now. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Action item 6B, approve the use of insurance proceeds for fiscal year 2018-19. And can I get a motion?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the use of insurance proceeds for fiscal year 2018-19.
Second.
Is there information, Mr. Miglerino?
President Frank, members of the board, Dr. Finch, just very briefly, if you follow closely, we used to have a hearing also about the insurance proceed. I just want to maybe recognize that thanks to our efforts legislatively, we got that changed. So there's no hearing required for the insurance proceeds, but the plan is still required. This would allow us, if we were to ever receive any proceeds as a part of an insurance claim, to be able to use those funds and not have to take it out of our limited funds that are part of the budget formula. So they get deposited into a separate account. So we're estimating between, the plan here shows $70,000, might be a little bit more than that. Projected revenue of about $30,000. That's just estimating what we might have in claim dollars for planned uses of about $100,000, which we probably won't spend, but we have to have a plan in place to be able to even spend it, or we'd have to bring it back before the board for any expense. So this is just a plan based on projections.
Okay. Are there questions from board members on this item?
Nope.
Okay.
I think it pretty much says it if it's to be used for what got broke.
Okay. Well, hearing no questions, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And thank you for your efforts to prevent us from having another meeting tonight. It's much appreciated, I'm sure, by everyone. Okay, so action item 6C.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to levy the increased primary property tax rate of the district to pay for increased expenditures over the state-imposed spending limit.
Second.
And this was the item that was discussed in the public hearing earlier.
President Frank, that's correct.
Okay. Any further additional questions?
Well, prior to voting, I just want to clarify my vote because I know that there's a lot of concern in the public with all the continuous being taxed. Having looked on a little bit of research and considering, I know that the aging of our buses and the situations that we're in those areas, I am going to support continuing this. It is a slight reduction from last year, which I appreciate any reduction we can provide to our community members, because I know this is one of the greatest concerns that I receive, especially from some of our older community members. However, I do believe that the safety of our children in all situations has to be primary. But I am asking that we at some point get a report on planned use and an idea of what we're doing for sure. What you told us does make sense, that we would do it. And that's my explanation for those who I'm sure will ask anyways, but I will clarify to them in person as well.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Fisher, for your explanation. Ms. Tweedy, you also have a comment to make?
Yes, I would also like to explain my vote. I do agree that student safety is definitely a priority, and we do have money in the bond for student safety. What really concerns me is we don't have a plan for this money. The city has not agreed to let us put in a traffic light. If they did, then that would be a justifiable reason, in my view, to increase taxes. Should they agree to it, we could reallocate some of the bond funds. But I just don't think it would be fiscally responsible to approve this when it was clear we have no plan or identified safety need for these funds, but yet we're going to raise the taxes on our community. So that would be my reason for my vote.
Mrs. Ordway?
I'm going to vote yes, because I heard a lot of clear anticipated reasons for it. And again, if it's not used, it will go back to the taxpayer in a reduction. So I will explain my vote that way.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ordway. Mrs. O'Brien, do you have comments you'd like to make prior to the vote?
I would.
No?
Because, I do. Sorry.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I do think because student safety is a priority and we do need to get that light at 51st, I support this.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Oh, go ahead. Did you?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I obviously student safety is important. My concern with this is we don't really know what the cost is going to be of the improvements or what safety improvements are going to be needed at Hillcrest, and I can't spend money if I don't see a plan going forward with that. So I would concur with Ms. Tweedy on this item. So I think it's been like a spoiler alert since we all had comments to make. So I will call for the vote, and it is a roll call vote. So Mrs. Ordway?
Aye.
Mrs. O'Brien?
Aye.
Mrs. Fisher?
Aye.
Ms. Tweedy?
Nay.
And I will also vote nay. Please vote online. Okay. Okay, I know that was a bit of a spoiler there. So go ahead and move on to 6D, adopting the 2018-19 budget. Can I get a motion?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to adopt the 2018-19 expenditure budget.
Second.
Okay, so I think we've seen the presentation. Are there any further questions, comments from board members?
Jim, could you just start from the beginning and explain again? No, I'm just kidding.
No, don't do that.
Just kidding.
President Frank, I did want to maybe just give credit to Ms. Mock. I believe she's in the audience, our Director of Finance.
Yes.
She does all the heavy lifting when it comes to putting all this together, and I just wanted to recognize her publicly.
Okay, so let's give her a round of applause. So what you're saying is all you do is adjust the font. Got it.
Makes it smaller and smaller and smaller.
Does do amazing work and speaks German too.
Okay.
So.
All right, so are there any comments from board members? Hearing none, I will go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. And go ahead and vote online.
Yep.
Yeah. Mine always seems to pop up after everybody's. Must be because I'm special. Oh, okay. All right, so item 6E would be the certified and classified negotiated language. And Ms. Tweedy, if I can have a motion.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the certified and classified negotiated language tentative agreement 67 for 2018-19.
Second.
Okay, so have there been any changes since the previous presentation?
Not with a tentative agreement, there hasn't been a change, but I'm happy to clarify any with any questions that you might have. We did provide an update as we knew there was a question surrounding the proposal for speech staffing. We also added one sentence to the MOU to clarify how the payment would be given to an employee that came back off of a personal leave of absence. We will add the percentage that was approved for the 18-19 school year to the percentage, if approved, for the following year in total to the base salary of the 16-17 year. And you'll see that language in the MOU.
That did change, correct? Because I thought it read differently when I read it at home.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
That did, in the language of the MOU did change, correct?
That part was added, yes, since the last time you saw the MOU,
I thought maybe
that
I
was
had
added.
read it wrong the first time, because I thank you for the change.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Moffitt. Opening it up for other questions or comments, Ms. Tweedy?
I did read the information that was sent on the speech, and I am. I read the information that was sent on the speech, and what it said was 7.7% of the population, according to the National Institution of Health, has a voice, speech, language, or swallowing issue. I don't understand how we could use that statistic to determine the needs of our students, because a student with any one of those given issues would require a different number of minutes in their IEP that we would be required to serve. And the only reason I'm making an issue for speech, not because I think it's all a speech issue, but this is the first one that came in front of me as a separate item. I think this speaks to the whole dissatisfaction of some people have with SPED, from parents to employees to teachers to administrators. We don't know if we have adequate staffing to service our students if we don't consider the minutes in their IEP when we decide how many members we're going to hire. 7.7% of the population having some type of a need for speech therapy is just kind of a worthless statistic to base staffing on. I don't mean to sound rude, but it's just a frustration, and I really think this speaks to it.
President Frank, Ms. Tweedy, I would agree with you. And that is, when we're putting a formula together, we are also considering minutes. When we have itinerant staff, though, we can't actually add up the minutes every given year district-wide, because the itinerant staff are deployed accordingly. One campus might have a higher need one year than it does have the next year. So our itinerant staff, such as psychologists or OT or speech, we use different formula based on trends that we see in student populations. So that's what you'll see in the certified manual under a psychologist, for example. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but there's a certain amount of students within the given population that we believe, in the gen ed population, that might need psychology services. And so we use that to staff. At any given time, though, student support services or one of our coordinators, such as Joey Blair, who's been working with us in speech, can come forward and share that they are over capacity. So our formula, she believes this one in particular will meet their needs. If she's wrong in the work that we've done, the research that she pulled national trends, we also did do comps with our peers to see if it was reasonable, the formula that we have here. If, though, we are off base and we find that we do need additional speech staffing, or surprisingly we are over allocated, we can adjust at that time. In fact, they did that this last year. We found that they're over capacity because if you saw in the Thursday update that we utilize our speech pathologists in a variety of ways, not only to support students with IEPs, but we also use them for intervention. They often desire to be part of the intervention process because specifically in articulation needs, they can remedy some of those issues before they even end up as a student on an IEP. So in those cases, we can add additional staffing, and that would be pulled out of contingency, and we could relook at the formula again the following year.
Well, if we're going to end up with more speech services this way, it's not like it'd be something I'd vote against, but by next year, I would like to see all our special ed staff in the context of how many people are we providing for how many service minutes. And yes, they do have other responsibilities like evaluations of the students who don't actually end up qualifying for services. So then you would add a percentage plus 10% to that. Because what bugs me about us using projections like 7.7%, projections are never accurate. And we have the IEP minutes that we have to provide that much service. So there's no need to project. I mean, we could just auto sum it and then figure out how many minutes we're asking, because I know that something is amiss with the staffing, just from what I hear from so many groups. And I think if we looked at it in that context, at least by next year.
I think if we only used minutes, we'd be missing many things. So I agree with you that minutes are necessary, and I think we can provide some information to you on how we do utilize minutes in And I probably would need to gather that information from our coordinators because they are the ones that staff according to the minutes. I'd hate to misspeak and misinform you how that's done specifically here this evening, but I can provide that information for you. And we can relook at that as we move into our next staffing cycle.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, by approving this staffing model, that does not preclude us from adding additional staff to a campus that had more speech requirements or students on IEPs that required more minutes, because just because someone has speech on their IEP, it can look very different from student to student in terms of what their needs are. So by approving this, there's still the ability to increase according to campus needs.
That is correct, and because they are itinerant staff, we can move our speech pathologists to locations where there is more need, and if everyone is at capacity, we do still have the ability to add additional time or more FTE.
Okay, thank you.
So this language basically says it's a minimum.
That's right.
Okay, because I will agree with Ms. Tweedy. This has been brought to us multiple times that there is a lack of the services that are needed based on minutes. And so I do look forward to finding that information from you as well. I believe this is the third year that type of concern has been brought forward to various board members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Moffitt. Mrs. Ordway, did you have anything you wish to comment? Mrs. O'Brien?
No.
Okay, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries 5-0. And item 7, future meeting and dates. Future dates are posted. Brings us to, believe it or not, adjournment at the ridiculously early hour of 8:30. If I can get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Aye. Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Well, we'll give Ms. Tweedy half an hour to explain. Okay, meeting is adjourned at 8:30.
Is that one going to come up electronic?